Bam! What's going on, folks? MC is in the house. Let me take that out of there. All right. So, my name is Justin Garcia, also known as Master Jim, and welcome to the Warrior Stream. I am here every Wednesday at noon, and I find a topic, we talk about it, discuss it, I share my views on it, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with me when I do. So if you guys have not checked out already the Three Roads Tribe, it is my free membership site for men who are looking to one day become entrepreneurs and build a self-sustained, autonomous, independent income on their own. There's a lot of value there. It's completely free. You can go to threeroadstribe.com and check that out. A bunch of guys who watch this every single week are already members, and it's good to see them making some headway over there. And let's actually see what's going on. I'm streaming on a couple of different platforms here. I use StreamYard to do it. And after over a year of using this, I still don't know how all the buttons work, so be patient. Jesse, what's up, my man? Corey, good to see you. Aaron, how you doing? Good to see you. Jesse, I believe I saw your name on the Three Roads Tribe community. Good on you. Corey, I don't believe I've seen yours yet. I could be mistaken, but I really want you guys over there and checking out the info. There's a lot of stuff that goes on there. Some great posts from the guys that are in the community, and it is a good time. All right. Jamie, my man up in Canada, good to see you. Tuan Tom's in the house. What's up, brother, man? Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a bit. Was talking about you earlier, Tuan Tom. Talking about a contract where we were getting attacked by a dog in a kill house. That might strike some memories there, but good times, good times. Felix, good to see you, my friend. Caceres is in the house. Good to see you. All right. So today, the topic at hand is transferable formulas. Now, there's an idea, it's probably a great coincidence, maybe not so much of a coincidence, but Tuan Thomas here. The first time I ever heard the phrase transferable formula as a concept, I've heard the words before, I speak English on a daily basis, but transferable formulas was an idea that seemed to sort of capture a concept that I understood in application. But language being as powerful as it is, it was something that was phrased perfectly and something that, when understood, is a very valuable tool in a man's toolbox. So start off with, words mean things. I'm going to start off with formulas here, right? So if we're talking about transferable formulas, let's talk about formulas first. A formula is a sort of a recipe for an outcome or an identity. It is a process that could be followed consistently, repetitively, to produce a predicted outcome. The formulas that we discover and in turn develop allow us to be more effective and efficient in our efforts. To have the idea of a formula being something that can be applied to everyday life isn't something that a lot of people tend to really meditate on. They don't really think about, well, is there a better way to do this? I once showed a group, I think the first group I showed was during one of my vial prep events. I talked about opening a can and how there is a formula to open a can more effectively. And even something seemingly as trivial as that is what my days are filled with. Because if there's anything that I'm doing repetitively, why would I not want an approach that allows me to improve my ability to do it over time? And when we're talking about formulas, that is the type of lifestyle that is born from valuing the concept of a formula in the first place. Now, transferable. This is where a lot of people trip themselves up. If you're somebody who has a skill set that is of value, that is of worth. I'll use an example. Just recently, I was talking to a gentleman We were talking about sales. We were talking about being able to be in front of somebody who potentially could use his service and being able to convey the value of that service to them in a way where they would say, you know what, yeah, I'm going to invest in this. And a sale is made. We're having that conversation. I asked him, I said, what is your sales conversation like? What type of skill set do you have? And do you have a fair amount of success in what it is that you're doing? And he, and I believe him. He was like, listen, if you put somebody in front of me, I'm so excited. And so, I understand what I'm doing so completely that there's no issue. I said, so could you teach somebody else to do that? And he said, well, and the hesitation was there. So he had a formula. It just wasn't transferable. So we have to understand the limitations when we're talking about things that maybe we understand how to do, the limitations in their utility tribally, right? Or as we scale, there's a certain point where guy opens a pizza shop, makes great pizza. There's only so many pizzas that guy can make per day. At some point, it's going to be better for him if he wants to scale the size of his business or to open multiple businesses. He's got to say, well, how is it that I do this? And let me get good at transferring this ability to other people in the form of a transferable formula. I think when we look at anything that we're good at in our lives, finding a way to look at it through this lens of, well, what exactly is the replicatable process that's here, and how could I get to the point where I could distill that process and actually optimize it once it's been articulated? If I am looking at jujitsu, there are plenty of things that I did in the beginning of jujitsu where I just had to listen step by step to what the instructor told me to do. Grab here, push here, pull here, whatever it happened to be. Then after a while, I build a deep enough relationship with what that is that I'm able to do it. But then there's this other threshold that's passed later on when somebody asks me how to do it. Now, the person who teaches, right, and I'm going to continue to use the jiu-jitsu analogy, the person who is transferring this formula, one of the things you'll notice is that the person who it's being transferred to is not necessarily going to be able to do that anywhere as effectively as the teacher can do it. So the black belt teaches the white belt. The white belt is pretty much still going to do it at a white belt level. Over time, sure, it'll grow to the point where he too will be at a black belt level. But again, there's something to be said for what that process is like when we transfer the information from, I'm going to continue to use the jiu-jitsu analogy, a black belt to a white belt. How succinctly can the black belt deliver an understanding of a technique in this example? And does he have an understanding of how that communication is received on the other end? You guys have heard me say before, communication is in the catch, not the throw. Well, when we're transferring formulas from our knowledge base to somebody else, do we have a process to do that most effectively? Do we have a process to even understand and receive maybe feedback to how this is being received? Do we have a process to be able to try and navigate improving that individual instance of transferring it to somebody? Can you just teach talented people? Can you teach people without talent? Do you need your words to teach everything? Can you use symbols or actions or references to teach something? An incredibly valuable tool in my toolbox is the Feynman method. If you guys have never heard about the Feynman method, basically it was coined and attributed to Richard Feynman, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist. And what it describes is a process of being able to learn something through early teaching of that thing. So what does that mean? I learned jiu-jitsu. I started training jiu-jitsu. I opened a school about 2 years after I started jiu-jitsu. It was an easy decision because I got thrown out of the first one. Right? So when I opened that school, I was a blue belt, which is the second belt in jiu-jitsu. And there I was with the school. I was not a purple belt, brown belt, black belt level. I was not an expert at jiu-jitsu by any means. But one of the things I realized was I was very passionate about teaching. I understood the value of these formulas. I had been a personal trainer for some years before that. So the idea of teaching people how to do things with their body was very familiar to me. And I've had formulas to be able to do that. And because I was able to transfer the formulas that I had, I wasn't a black belt, but I was better and more technical and had more information than everybody that walked in the door. So I was of value to the people that came in, and I continued training. So there was always like my students were always one or two rungs below me, but as I climbed, my more senior students would be climbing with me. But so long as I understood how to transfer those formulas, and so long as I too was growing, there was a value for them to be with me, right? So I think we're looking at how it is we're supposed to arm ourselves with the best capabilities possible to navigate our days. I think it is a good idea for one to look at his life, look at his day even, as a series of formulas being played out. There are going to be things that are repetitive, things that you do over and over again. And I think it maybe requires committing to a certain standard that an individual tells himself, I'm not going to do this at this level the next time I try to do it. And over time, there should be a noticeable progression of skill. Let me see what's going on with these comments. Yarn Saxa, good to see you. All right. All right, Corey, I'm reading your message. MC, I've tried several times to sign up, but I'm having an issue. I enter my login information to the site, and they send a 4-digit code to my email. I have to exit the login process to check my email. When I try to come back, it starts all over again. All right. I tell you what, Corey, I'm going to do you a favor. Email me at info@masterchim.com, your email, and I will add you to the group. How's that? I hope that works out. All right. So what are some of the other ways that I've noticed the transference of formulas, or this idea of having formulas that transfer? How has it impacted my life? Well, I think that there's something to be said for the thumbnail that I created today, which is a father and his son fishing. And I think the image says, first that, then this. And I learned how to fish from my father. My father taught me how to fish, and my younger brother how to fish. My younger brother stayed with it a hell of a lot longer than I did. I always had patience issues when I was a kid. And I love the type of fishing where, we're throwing a lure off the boat and we're just trying to, if you've ever gone jigging for bluefish, like you understand what I'm talking about. It's a fight. Different types of fishing where you're constantly, moving. I always endeared myself to that process. My father's formulas ended when it came to building an appreciation for those types of fishing that were not overlapped with who I was and what my temperament or my personality was. My brother was different. My brother had much more overlap with what my father's capabilities in teaching were, and therefore he had the opportunity to learn more than I did from my father when it came to fishing. And to this day, my brother's 20 times a fisherman than I am. Because of this process, one of the things that I've done as a father is teach my children to be coachable. It's not easy, let me tell you. But when you understand where the mission is, you can constantly reorient yourself to get back on track. But my kids over the years, like I look at my kids' level of jujitsu. I'm a black belt in jujitsu. My kids aren't phenoms in jujitsu. Maybe they will be one day, but that's never been my priority. I lift weights. My kids are in pretty great shape for their ages, but they're not elite power lifters. There's a bunch of things that I do that I've shared with my kids that they all have varying levels of aptitude in at this point in development. But for me, the priority has always been, can I teach them and share with them the ethics that will make them as good of a student as possible? Because I do understand that they will run into masters during their lifetime that don't have the ability to transfer the formulas that they possess. So when we become coachable and we become a more effective student, what winds up happening is we could supplement for the underdeveloped formulas that some masters have to be able to learn from them, right? Sometimes you'll see instructors, and I do pride myself on being an effective instructor, ability to articulate things and pay attention to how they're being received. But even in my life, Tuan Tom, one of the best instructors, I've ever seen, there is a process there that he's worked on, regardless of what it is that he's teaching. The delivery system, the teaching pedagogy, that is being developed independent of what is going to be transferred through that teaching process. From the opposite end as a student, we could also work on that process, is what my point is. If we're coachable, if we are disciplined enough to understand that they might not be customizing this message completely, to overlap with who we are and what our expectations are, it allows us to have access to more information for more masters of that information. Tuan Tom writes, your teaching formula is one of the best I've ever witnessed. I find myself often defaulting to your explanations and terminology for transferring formulas, even the most challenged humans can learn. I appreciate that. But guys, listen to me when I tell you, Tuan Tom is every bit and more the instructor that I am. But brother, I do appreciate that. I will say that Tuan Tom and I are so connected and overlapped because we do have these aspects of our personalities that we do invest time in. And he and I are both instructors that value the ability to transfer that information in a way that is more universally accepted, right? So to use an analogy to describe that last point, before I learned how to use any tools, and not that I know how to use a lot of them now, but before I learned how to use any of them, everything was a hammer, a screwdriver, and a vice grip, right? You could do a lot with those three things. You get a flathead, it fits in a lot of, Phillips head, screws. You hammer anything it needs to get hit, you can hit it. And you don't need to figure out wrenches and ratchets if you have a good vice grip, right? So I would figure out all those things. And a lot of people would say, yeah, but, there are so many, like you're going to strip the thing, you're going to dent the thing. And listen, there is certainly something to be said for the customization of a good tool and its value is on a given job. However, if you only had to carry three things, what are the three things that you're going to carry? And I think that every instructor should have those universal formulas to be able to reach as much of the people or as many of the people that he's speaking to as possible. And from there, build on that universal foundation into more of a path of customized understanding, right? Tuan Tom says, except the mush man from O'Gara trying to learn a technical stand-up. We all took a shot. So I'm going to share that story real quick. Oh, man, that was classic. We were on a contract at a training facility, and there was an individual there. Not going to name names, but I don't even remember. We'll call him Mushman. That's his name now. And at some point, there was I think it was my teaching block. It might have been. No, I think it was somebody else's teaching block, but we were going over a technical stand-up. In jiu-jitsu, they call it stand-and base, technical stand-up. And this guy looked like he was playing a game of Twister by himself. And at some point, a couple of us had taken a shot at helping him. But then it organically developed into a challenge. It's like, who could untard this retard? And we all failed miserably. And it's like, if there was like a final boss in teaching, like this guy was the final boss, because no matter what it is we said, like there were things where I would explain it like, okay, now I want you to put your foot from here, your foot's here. I want you to put it right there. Just slide it right there. And he would move his hand. And I would look at him and I would constantly find myself not like wanting to yell at him. And it would look like this. There was a lot of times where I did this and just stared at him. At one point, I was reduced to telepathy because I'm like, I don't know what to say, because at some point I'm going to have to grab him, right? And I don't think that we still would have been able to reach the goal of teaching him a technical stand-up if I was just jerking him around like a fucking crash dummy. Oh man, that was funny. But you know, it's funny. Funny observation about it is that there's a story about me and my friends taking seriously this idea of being able to transfer formulas, right? We were not able to detard the retard that day, but Mushman lives. Oh, man, that's awesome. Johnny Groove, what's up, brother, man? All right, I think I'm going to, oh, man, this is going to be a short one today. There's a couple things I wanted to go over, and I covered them pretty effectively, or so I think, a little biased. Let me just remind you guys, threeroadstribe.com. It's free. It's a site that you go to, you join. There are a bunch of videos there you can watch. There's a bunch of guys there that post every day. Guys will give you some feedback. There's a nice little community forming, which is the intent of it. We're over 50 members now, which I'm happy about. I'm trying to get to 100 members before. Well, it was supposed to be before the end of this month, but we're not quite there yet. So I've moved the goalpost to try to get 100 at least by the end of the year. Go there, Three Roads Tribe. It's free. I'm here every Wednesday. You guys know that. Today, I'll be honest, I had a quick idea and concept that I wanted to share. I was going to let the conversation develop organically from there. I appreciate that my man Tuan Tom is in the house. Damien, there's my brother right there. D, I was just talking about you, about fishing. I'll be here again next week. You guys know the deal. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I like checking in with you guys. ThreeRoadsTribe.com. A bunch of other links are in the description. I'll be here next week. And as always, brothers and sisters, pressure to power.